NFL Week 7, the New Orleans Saints have their third road game of the season. They're heading up to Chicago to take on the Bears. Look, road game 1, that was a disaster in Seattle. Road game 2, it's a valiant effort, but you lost by 2 scores up in Buffalo. Can this young Saints team finally figure it out in Chicago? Look, to have any chance, that young Saints roster is going to have to step up, especially the youngsters on defense. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So for this game, I'm using basically the same rundown overlay I used last week, just change it to week 7, change Patriots to Bears, and switch the order between the Saints defense and the offense because I think that's where the important questions and answers are really going to have to be. But starting off right where we started off last week is the same things we're talking about over and over, continued improvement, fixing the problems. And I was talking with a friend of mine during the week, and this we kind of got on this conversation, and it's almost like the last 2 to 3 years and even the last year of Sean's coaching, this the issues, the same ones, the penalties, the no accountability, every blah blah blah. We all know the song and dance after years of it. Is taking so long to get out of the organizational system. It's almost like 1 or 2 weeks at a time we kind of get something fixed. And so far, and I almost hate to say this out loud for fear of jinxing it, it seems like once we get a problem kind of under control and fixed, it seems to stay that way. We'll find out in a couple areas this week. Look, keep penalties low. We've been doing a really good job of that. In fact, we're kind of getting on the right side of the penalty margin, both in number of penalties and yards assessed against us versus our opponents. Missed tackles was a massive issue. It looks like we had about 5 misses or so, which is half of our game. Actually, our game average was 11.2, so 5 seems like a huge win in that column. Continue to do that. Can't definitely can't miss double-digit tackles. You'd like it for to be 0, really, really hard goal. But right now, I can almost live with 5. Just I hate to say that also, but just make sure the 5 don't kill you, because that's kind of like a lot of our problems are is special teams. Still not good. But I kind of felt like at least last week it didn't kill us. This point, I'm going. If you guys could get to average, I'd feel a little better because I still think it's below average if you want to be kind, and worse than that if you don't. So these continued improvements, keep fixing the problems, and make sure the improvement keeps trending up and the fixes stay fixed. And I think that's going to probably hold up until further notice, the starting point each and every week, what this team has to do to even give itself a shot to do anything. Saints defense, um, just last week, and especially after watching film, and I think I alluded to this a little bit in the film review, but just to go in a little more deep detail with the defense, I think one of the things that happened that really showed up and coinciding nicely with as the Drake May with how he played against us and the things he was able to do. You had Josh McDaniels, a very good offensive coordinator, knows how to scheme against personnel and teams he's playing against week in and week out, knows how to design route combinations, everything else, knows how to take advantages, and more importantly, knows how to play call to make all that work during the course of a game. And it was on evidence. I mean, all over the place. There were physical errors, no doubt about it. There was some stuff, even the the way that they were kind of. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but taking our young guys to school because that's what it seemed like was going on. But the way he was able to do it, not a lot of coordinators can. But guys like him is once look, he can take big time advantage of any NFL players caught in that position, but especially the guys that aren't quite ready for what was coming. And again, you got great quarterback play and great wide receiver play to make it work. Reason why this makes the game so scary for me, you just traded Josh McDaniels in for Ben Johnson. Hello. I mean, this guy's as good as anybody, and I think always have thought over the last couple of years, one of the best guys in the NFL to be able to do this, both to scheme it up and to play call. And everybody knows what the Johnson blueprint is, and it's clearly obvious he's trying to get it installed with the Bears. Why shouldn't he? Because people have a really hard time stopping it. But it's going to be balanced. It's an offense, designed for making explosive plays. That's what he's trying to get to. What it's a mostly wide zone, but look, I remember a game a couple years ago in the Dome where Detroit came in and dropped 21 on us before we knew it hit us. And the big play of that game was the very first drive of the game. We had them in a 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. It was an RPO. Goff went to the inside, handoff on an inside zone to Montgomery, who cracked it up the middle for about 15 yards. And it seemed like that play, third play of the game, broke our back. So whatever you think he's going to do, or he does normally, because I think he is more of a wide zone guy, you better be ready. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, I think the reason why he is so good at his play calling is regardless of what he's trying to do, he's going to get your defense to move around. He is going to stretch it, and he's going to stretch it to his breaking point if you let him. So if he's got to go wide zone and move you side to side, he's going to do that. If he's got to go inside zone and try to push you around and gain chunks up the middle, but he is setting up big hits. And if he can really get with play action, RPOs, he really takes some big time shots downfield, and he's got the personnel on this offense to be able to do it. You look at Caleb Williams, one of the things he has now that he didn't have in Jared Goff in Detroit is a mobile quarterback who can now you can design runs obviously for him, but you can put some read options. You can put read options on top of your RPOs if you want to, with design rollouts. If Goff was doing that in Detroit and you're the defense, you're not overly worried about it. But you got to respect the element of what Caleb Williams can do running and moving with the ball in his hands. One of the things I didn't know that their offensive coordinator, now Johnson is the play call and all, but their offensive coordinator, Doyle Declan, came over from Denver. He was with Sean Payton last year. I believe he was their tight ends coach. But one of the things he's bringing to the table apparently is they looked at Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and want to incorporate a lot of the similar stuff that Denver was using last year with Nix in a very similar manner to Williams, especially on bootlegs, especially those little Denver screens where they kind of rely on Nix being a little mobile to set it up before they screen the ball out. So, even the Ben Johnson blueprint recognizes there's room for improvement, and it was a big reason, among other things. Declan is an up and coming guy, but bringing him in and seeing what he could bring to the table to make that offense better and more explosive. Big three in that offense is Caleb Williams at quarterback, DeAndre Swift at running back, and Rome Odunze wide receiver. Okay. That gives three guys capable of making big plays in every aspect of the game, and you absolutely have to respect that. To compare that to last week, it was May and the receivers. Chicago, now you got to add a DeAndre Swift into that, and look, it can be problematic. Much like New England, a very solid group of, and much like most teams in the NFL, a very solid group of supporting cast that can hurt you. Definitely the rookie Luther Burton, DJ Moore when he's healthy. More on that a little later. You still have Cole Kmet at the tight end spot. They have Devin Duvernay floating around on their wide receiving core. None of these guys have really exploded. I know Burton had a big game a couple weeks ago, but I guarantee you they're all capable. I guarantee you they can do what Booty and Douglas did to us last week if you let them. So they're going to stretch you to your limits. That's what he does, and you better be ready for it. Um, one thing about Caleb Williams, I will say that you kind of get a little better. He's not Drake May, okay? So at least not yet. Not saying that he can't be, and certainly hope it ain't going to happen in this game. But you you do have a little more margin of error, but not much. But just by the simple fact of it's a very similar offense with very explosive playmakers on it. Offense overall is number 14. It's about 338.6 yards a game. They're 11th in passing at 227.8. Rushing, they're 110.8 a game. That puts them 18th in the NFL. Balanced offense. They're going to move the ball on you, and they can do it either way, and they can do it anyway with either way, how they're running or throwing the ball. Defensively, we don't stack up that badly on paper. Game ain't played on paper. We're 18th overall in defense, 327.3 yards per game. Pass, we're number 16 at 213, so we're not that far off the margins. Run, we give up 114. They run for 110, so you're kind of right there. But after what happened last week and getting a lot of our younger players, especially in the secondary, but even in other areas and even some of them better players and in some just bad situations, it's scary rolling into this because look, it's the young players, especially in the secondary. I mean, they have to be ready because defensively, one of the things you've got to do when you're playing against a Ben Johnson offense, you can't fall for the eye candy. Before the ball's even snapped, whatever's going on, whatever he's trying to show, and then do something else. And if you start getting, well, if you're getting fooled, you're in trouble. But even if you're fooled and then over aggressive, he's going to flip that on a dime and turn that around on you and use it against you. It's almost like he's the judo master of offensive coordinators. Like we said, he's going to want to move you around, especially side to side, looking for some space to break through or to pull you up and drill you over the top once he gets that balance in his offense established. So you can't take the bait against him. And I think we did a little too much of that last week when you're talking about the young secondary. We took the bait big time and paid for it hugely. The same thing will happen this week. So we've got to be a little more disciplined back there. And Staley's going to have to account for this in his defense when he's scheming this up. I don't ask me how because I'm not ready to match wits with Ben Johnson, but Staley's going to have to do it. That missed tackle thing, you can't miss them. Again, there's just too many guys floating around there that if you don't put them on the ground, they're going to go. We do not need to be putting ourselves in that position. Like I said, 5 was livable after averaging 11.2 missed tackles a game, but 5 could be too many against these guys. It was against New England. So, discipline, don't fall for it. Don't stay aggressive, but not overly aggressive. Don't let him turn that on its head and use it against you. And above all, the biggest thing I can say about our defense against their offense, please, especially on the road and not at home, which is bad enough, but especially on the road, you have to break this streak of allowing the other team's offense to score touchdowns on their first 2 possessions that they touch the ball. We cannot give up 14 points in 2 possessions in hope of winning almost any game, much less a road game, that what I'm trying to tell you here is you don't want to get into a track meet with Chicago because when we get to the Saints offense, that's going to present a problem. So this defense has got to grow up fast, step up, and keep their offense under control the best you can because it's just one of those things. It's like a horse race. That front runner breaks out, you're never going to catch him. You give up 14 real quick, it's going to be the same old, same old. We're never going to catch him. Moving on to the Saints defense. Bit of good news, maybe. We know what we're going to get when we face a Dennis Allen's defense, especially the last few years, because he's been hesitant to really change anything up. So far, it looks like he's still hesitant to change anything up. So you kind of know what you're getting here. It's base 4-3, heavy man coverage. Um, right now, going into this week, his man rate is 41.5%. That's second in the NFL. That he's going to 42% basically. That he's going to be running man coverage. So his zone rate actually falls to second to last in the NFL, barely coming out over 50%. So you're going to have to run some man beaters. You're going to have to be able to, as we've seen the last few years in New Orleans, we didn't have the guys to be able to do that an awful lot, and it came back to haunt us an awful lot, especially late in games. That 4-3, expect to see a lot of 4-2-5. That's what we basically ran the last few years. That's basically what a lot of 4-3 based teams do is they're more 4-2-5. It's going to be more of the same. Um, you know, D tackles kind of handling A and B gaps are more or less two gap guys there in the middle, the edge. They're going to have to worry about run fits before they bring pressure on the quarterback. How many times have we heard DA talk about his edge guys? You gotta you gotta stop the run and earn the right to rush the passer. I don't think he's changed that philosophy, and he's gonna kind of keep trying to do it the same way he did it. Show pressure simulations more times than not blitzing, but he will dial up a blitz. And to his credit, even the last few years, he could seem to dial up some big ones at the right time, especially in that 4-2-5 with a good nickel corner. And he's got a good one. So I don't think there's any surprises coming here. Um, all his sacks, going through the positions on the defense, because quite honestly, I'm not familiar with a whole lot of Bears players, but there's a couple of the big ones you know really well. But all sacks for this team so far, they're coming from their defensive line, that basic front four. Their defensive tackle, Dexter, he leads the team with 2.5 coming from the inside. Robinson's got 2. Passing out, yes, to no passing out, ex Saint. Um, Odeng Bingo, I butchered his name and I apologize, but I've practiced that one. I still can't figure out how to say it. Plus Sweat. It's all edge guys, each with one each. And we know he relies heavily on his linebackers. He relies heavily on his top 2 linebackers. Tremaine Edwards, really, really good one. He's having a good year. He's the main guy right now, mostly because TJ Edwards, who had an injury early in the year, missed time, came back, almost immediately re-injured it in a game, missed more time, finally got back last week, seems to be fully healthy. Really good linebacker in himself. So when they're both healthy and on the field at the same time, it could be a real coin flip which one is the guy. They both play really, really good linebacker. Noah Sewell, a name you might recognize, the brother of our ex-linebacker Nephi, he's filled in for Edwards in more than likely their third linebacker. More on this later, sitting in concussion protocol. I don't know how much they have behind depth-wise, even just kind of looking at the number of plays and in their numbers. That I'm sure they do. Don't know much about them. I think these are the 3 main guys they're relying on, and they all 3 of them seem to be really good football players. Got to be in his defense. He can go more like he used to. I expect to see more of like the 2016 to 2019, 2020 versions of what he wants to do on defense. More single high safety. When we used to have free safeties, I'd be able to handle it where he could play more man. He's got Brisker and Bayard. So he's got 2 guys that are plenty good enough back there to be able to handle single high. My expectation is that's where it's going to be. If they want to go too high, I don't think that's really an issue either. The corners are good. You know, you're going to have Tariq Stevenson on the outside's good. They have Kyler Gordon playing in that nickel spot. You got a pretty good corner there to handle that. Um, so, I mean, when he's out there running his defenses, if any Saints fan who's been watching Dennis Allen's defenses are going to look how they're lining up, knowing what they're going to do, because I think one of his thing has always been, And I guess when you have the personnel to get it work, he's 100% right. We don't care if you know what we're going to do. We're just going to do it better than you can to stop it. Talent wise, personnel wise, right now, he probably has more to be able to do that than he had the last few years when our defenses were falling apart in Chicago. However, their overall defense is number 27 in the league. They're giving up 369 yards per game. Passing is 15th at 213.3 per game. This is the one rushing defense, 31st in the NFL, 156.1 yards per game. We lived through that the last few years. So our offense bringing 305 yards overall. Passing is 195.8, 22nd. We're overall the 24th offense. Rushing 19th at 109.5. You're going to have to rush like a top 10 team in this game. Bottom line. Alvin, hopefully 100%. Seems like he probably will be, if not close to it, but we're not sure yet. Kendre Miller, whoever else we're going to use to run the ball, carry the ball, including Spencer Rattler, design runs or otherwise. We've got to run the ball. Absolutely have to run the ball. Because you can't expect somewhat of a repeat performance last week if you can keep breaking open against man coverage. Because the last 2 weeks, we seem to have been pretty good at it. Being able to get some real good open looks, some real good, I wouldn't say easy, but relatively easy pitches and catches, and a couple of times being able to get in a situation where we can get a big play off of it. So you're going to have to play that well again, or come close to it. In the case of Rattlers, it's hard to expect him to duplicate his performance last week, but he can't have this can't be the game where he regresses a lot for whatever reason. Can't afford it because we're going to need to be able to look. Olave and Shaheed have operated really, really well against man. Got to keep that going. With a running game and play action, it makes it easier for that to happen. Again, we witnessed it for years in a DA defense. The tight ends need to show up, need to get involved, need to catch the ball, need to hold on to the ball after they catch it. DA's defenses typically, historically, struggle with tight ends. You get balls to tight ends to go make plays and really start putting some pressure on them. Again, we've seen it happen. We know what the results can be. To that, I've said this in the video review last week. I'd like to see some more Devon Vele. Please, please, let's try to get him involved, especially bigger receiver in that man, especially in the red zone. Especially in the red zone. Let me repeat that, Saints. He seems to operate really well down there, gives you a bigger target, seems to have really good hands. Like to see more of him. All this adds up to what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to control the line of scrimmage. So let's get to the offensive line. Pass blocking still going to have to be good, especially when they get you behind the chains in a down and distance where those ends are coming, and they've got some good ones, so they'll be coming. So you're going to have to handle that. But more importantly, need to get space for our runners. Running backs, Rattler, Hill, if we're running reverses with our speed, whatever. O-line, you got to tighten that up in there and get some space for these guys. This is about staying ahead of the chains for this offense. This is about hopefully staying out of third down as much as you can, picking up what you need on first and second. If it's going to make it a third manageable, that we're going to have to figure out a way to convert it, or staying out of it completely. We managed to do that a couple of times in the drives last Sunday. And you didn't have to mess with a first down or very much of one. Maybe convert one that you get on a drive because we were doing such a great job at times on first and second down. That's got to continue. I don't think, you're going to see any big magic tricks or trying to fool you stuff going on in Dennis Allen's defense. I don't think it's ever been a style, and we know he's stubborn and hard headed. So I don't expect it coming now. That being said, if he ever wants to do it, it would probably be against us. So just watch out for that. But for the most part, I'm sticking by. We know what we're getting. We should be able to handle most of it, but don't want to get in a shootout with this team. One of the best ways you can do it: run the ball, run the ball, run the ball on a team that can run the ball, be efficient in your passing game behind it, keep their offense off the field, keep your offense on the field. For the love of God, go score touchdowns. The best example I can give you of what we need to do, because I was sitting in the dome watching it happen, was last year the Raiders came in with Adrian O'Connell and Amir Abdullah and took both of them and shoved them down our throats and basically blew us out of our own stadium. Now, I don't know if we can do that up there in Chicago, but that's the philosophy, mentality, and the result we need from the offense, the way to do it. There's a blueprint. Go look at the game tape because no offense to Mr. O'Connell or Amir Abdullah, I would take our quarterback and running back situations going into this game better than that one. Their defense was better than ours on paper. But again, this game isn't played on paper. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Offensive line, do your job. Keep the efficiency up in the passing game and hit the big plays against man. Unfortunately, I couldn't wait for Friday's um, practice slash injury report to come out Friday afternoon. So, going to kind of go off a Thursday, but I think the caveat to this is, barring anything crazy happening on Friday with someone during practice, I think we've got a pretty good indication of what's going to go on. I think the Saints are going to be fully healthy for the first time all season, as far as I can remember. Even if you get limited practices today from someone, it may not be a huge deal. Um, I think the two to watch are Alvin and Isaac. If they get full practices today, we're probably okay. If not, keep an eye on them. Maybe they may have to test it out right before the game to see if they're going to go. I think everybody else is in pretty good shape. Godshaw's was just a rest day for him yesterday. Really, the interesting one is Ridgeway, because sooner or later we're either going to have to activate him or he's done for the year. He's got two full practices in a row, and with Broughton being done for the year and Boyd being as far as I know, a healthy scratch the last couple of weeks, we've been kind of having to back up Godshaw with like Shepard getting some snaps or even Bullard getting some snaps at the nose. We're probably, I think they're thinking a little better off with Ridgeway there, maybe more of a natural fit. We'll see, but I expect that's probably the thinking going on there. And even if he is gonna back up at those three techs, you're not having as many guys doing double duty to get Godshaw some backup and some rest when needed. So that's the one I'm really keeping an eye on to see if he gets activated on Saturday. As far as the Bears, Grady Jarrett has had problems with injury all year. He's got two DNPs in a row. One to watch on Friday if he's getting close to coming back or not. DJ Moore, same thing, gets a limited in, and if he's healthy or moderately healthy, he's even though he's not having a big year so far this year, as we mentioned, he's very, very dangerous football player. Noah Sewell got a clear concussion protocol. Talked about him. That's going to be a big one, I think, for him. The only one that really pops up with some interest is DeAndre Swift suddenly showing up with a limited practice. Don't read too much into that, but I think it's worth noting that it may just be a little something something that's no big deal, and they just want to make sure he's ready to go on Sunday, or something that popped up and they're going, well, we'll have to manage it and be a wait and see what happens on Sunday. So I think he's really the one to keep an eye on there on that list. But also what happens with Jarrett, Moore, and Sewell. Look, to go up there and get this win, gonna have to talk about some margins because we've got to get on the right side of scoring margin. Obviously, offense has got to break 20. And I think break it by a fairly significant mark. Doing it 2021 probably still wouldn't be enough, but anything short of that, I don't see how we get out of there with a win. Red zone, your defense gives up 66.7% while we only score 42.1%. That's overall. The bigger issue is touchdowns. Get inside the 20. Got to get the ball in the end zone this week. We say it every week, but this week, look, it's imperative. Third downs, they defend at 30.6. We're converting now 37.7, which oddly enough is going up, but it's still not going to be enough. I don't think. You got to get over 40% unless you can keep yourself out of third down entirely. Because defensively, we're giving up 26.7 a game. And I feel like, you look back even last week, as much success they had shredding our defense, they didn't run away with it like they could have. Scares me is I think this team could. Is they're not going to be one dimensional on offense like New England kind of was. Their offense is scoring 25.2 a game. So we're definitely on the wrong side of that. Their offense is converting in the red zone at 57.1. We're just like they are, defending it at 66.7. And this is another thing. If they get down there, you've got to hold them to field goals and not let them score touchdowns. Third down conversion, our defense, 41.4. It's still too high. Theirs is 43 point, or their offense is converting at 43.1. So the margin is slightly in their favor. And we've got to get better on third down and get that under 40. Definitely. You got a lot of things that being on the right side of the margins it's like we have no margin for error in this one. We really, really don't. It's kind of surprising, I know, but I think it's just one of the ways this is matching up is you're getting probably, I don't know if you can say the best, but he will always be in the conversation with the other guys you might consider the best of a scheme play caller combination, especially with using what he has available against what is going to show up and play against him on Sundays. And that's Ben Johnson. Great as Josh McDaniels is, I'm sorry, I got him a lot further down the list than I do of Ben Johnson. You got to keep the ball away from their offense. That's what it's going to boil down to. The running game is going to be hugely important, and stopping the run is going to be hugely important for the defense because if you can do that and ratchet up some pressure on Williams, unlike May last week, which limited pressure we brought, he basically didn't care about, you can't affect Williams' play with some pressure. Gonna have to do it because if you let him sit back there without none, I'm saying he can't give a Drake May type performance. Don't pressure him and see what happens. I don't want to find that out the hard way. Keep the penalties down. The margin, I think absolutely that has to happen. And if it doesn't, we're in trouble. You can't even be zero on turnover margin. You got to find a way to be at least +1. Part of that is look, you got to be perfect on offense. Just don't turn the damn thing over. But I think +2 is really where this team is going to have to be. That defense we're talking about where we have the penchant of letting stuff happen. You got to go take the ball away, especially when you get a chance to do it. All that being said, it's really hard for me to predict the Saints win on this on the road. These are the very similar type game in the sense of the margins, especially the score and the scoring against. When you look at everything, we seem to have covered it up in our home games, even though we only managed to get one win out of it. Just not there on the away games, and that's kind of what's scaring me. So when these situations present itself, being on the road those first two times, we never gave ourselves a chance to really overcome it. We did in Arizona, we did in Frisco, we managed to do it to beat the Giants, and you came up closer but still short like you did in weeks 1 or 2 last week at home. That continues. Look more towards what happened weeks 4 and 5. That's what we're opening ourselves up to. Yeah, this one, I can't. I'm Saints score 17 because until they score over 20 with that offense, you got to prove it to me now at this point. 28-17 Chicago. I think going into Tampa Bay, there's going to be a Just a lot more conversation about what needs to be done that's going to start happening. That kind of started this week after we didn't get by New England last Sunday. So there you go. First time here, you like what you saw, please give me a like, share, subscribe, comments. Yeah, go ahead and let me know how you think this game's going to turn out. Give me the scores. Scientists beat us to it, and he's being really confident, and I wish I could be. And I sincerely hope Scientists, I believe he had an 18-3 because he thinks groupies are going to miss an extra point. I hope you're 100% right. I so badly need to be 100% wrong on this. So we'll see how it comes out. So Scientists, I'm gonna try to buy in. I really, really am. I've got like 2 more days, roughly 48 hours to talk myself into it. I'm gonna try, but right now I gotta stick by the 28-17. So we'll see how it goes. We'll be back next week, Monday-ish, to unravel it, break it down, and see what happens. And really and truly, I wanna lead an open with, hey, Scientists, you were 100% right on this one. So till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.